Well, greetings from Budapest on August the 20th. It is Hungary's National Day, so it's a day of celebration. Everything is closed. We have had an aerial sort of parade, helicopters flying over the Danube. We had parties yesterday, super loud parties. You can even hear them here, even though they were like a kilometer away. And there will be parties and fireworks tonight that I'm going to check out with my family. But with news from around Hungary, the important news from the power station, the situation at the Paks nuclear power station has stabilized enough to avoid further shutdowns. The current Danube water level at Paks stands at approximately 129 centimeters lower than it should. This remains critically low by historical standards. The record lows earlier were 134 centimeters below the level that it should be. The reason that we don't really have anything to fear from now on, and why we are expected to be able to turn on the rest of the turbines come next week, is that the army has stepped in. Hungary has sunk two 80-meter barges to raise local levels. There has been a construction of a riverbed sill using large volumes of stone, tens of thousands of cubic meters so far, to raise the levels by up to 1 meter in the short term. And there have been additional steps, such as opening a sluice on a side channel to allow flow. These have raised the effective water level near the plant by 10 to 15 centimeters, which is that's just really, really good. Even so, only 2 of the 8 turbines are currently running, so we're operating at about 25% capacity. That's 480 to about 500 megawatts. The forecasts ahead of us indicate that the level will bottom out near current values or slightly lower in the very short term, then gradually rise. We are expecting 120 centimeters below the level that we would like to see by tomorrow morning, and this will improve to 116 centimeters below the level we'd like by August the 22nd, and by late next week, perhaps only 80 centimeters below the level that is normal. And the combination of the works already completed and expected rainfall upstream means the critical shutdown thresholds for the remaining turbines will not be reached. Because we didn't have this nuclear power station online, we had to import a lot of electricity. The estimated net import costs from the 25th of July till the 4th of August was around 25 billion forints. That would be around 69 million euros. The emergency riverworks themselves are estimated at around 6 billion forints, although I don't quite know how they work those figures out, seeing as the work has been done mostly by the army. And the full restoration of Paks output next week should substantially ease our import dependence and costs. Culturally, today is a day when important Hungarians generally receive awards. Today, a very famous actor for Hungarians, a guy called György Cserhalmi, he received the Grand Cross of the Hungarian Order of Merit. It was presented this earlier today at a ceremony in the Parliament building by our new president, András Baka, together with Peter Magyar and our Speaker of the House. Now, he's quite old now, this Cserhalmi. He's well known from films from the 70s and the 80s. The most famous one I think he was in is one called Dögkesejű, that means The Vulture. That was in 1982, directed by Ferenc András. And this is a thriller in which he stars as a taxi driver seeking justice. It's actually quite a good film. And for children, for any Hungarian, you would know his voice because he was the voice of János Vitéz in the classic animated film. This award was announced by Peter Magyar, I want to say yesterday or the day before, and this drew a little bit of vitriol from people because they were saying, how dare you announce this award, because it shouldn't be you announcing this award, because apparently Viktor Orban had done something similar before. He got a lot of abuse for it because it shouldn't be his thing to say. I don't think it matters here or there. Actually, Cserhalmi is quite a nice guy. I can only say that because I live in District 5 and he must have a place very close to me, because I've seen him on the street several times and I've said hi to him, and he's super nice because he says hi back, even though of course he has no clue who I am. Why would he? Otherwise, generally he lives down by the Balaton. Cserhalmi is almost famous because not just for his long acting career, but because he had a historic role on March the 15th in 1989 when he stood on the steps of the Hungarian National Television building that used to be on Szabadság tér during the democratic transition, and he read out the opposition's 12 points. This harkens back to the revolution of 1848 when there were also 12 points being read out. And actually, funnily enough, so those 12 points read by Cherhalmi, they were also played on a video screen at the very first protest held by the Tisa party under Peter Magyar on Andrássy Avenue. Otherwise, this week we had a little bit of a controversy involving a state tender. This was to do with vehicle fleet leasing. I'm generally not unhappy with the Hungarian government leasing a bunch of vehicles because I don't think they should. I don't like the fact that Hungarian state secretaries and Hungarian ministers are whisked around Budapest and taken to do their shopping and drop off their kids at school because it's totally unnecessary. It creates a them and us type feel, and it shouldn't exist. Hungary is not a dangerous place. These people aren't going to get beaten up, and if they are going to get beaten up, that's probably a sign that they're not good. But of course they're not going to get beaten up, so I'm not a huge fan. But there was a tender put out, a contract for the government, and there were three bidders for this contract in the very end. The first was a company called the Mészáros M1 Autókereskedő Kft. This is a car dealership fleet firm tied to Lőrinc Mészáros. He's Hungary's richest man. He's a man I've spoken about many times before. He's a childhood friend. They sat together in school with Viktor Orbán, our former prime minister. Another company that put in an offer was Leaseplan Hungária ZRT. This is the local arm of a large Dutch multinational company called Leaseplan, which is a major international player in vehicle leasing. And then later there was also a company that put in an offer called Duna Auto ZRT, but that offer was invalidated early because they they didn't pay the required bid security on time. Now what's funny about this is that at first this contract was awarded to the Mészáros company. They put in an offer for about 250 million forints. This would be for a 36-month period. Then Leaseplan complained and they said, hang on, why are they putting that offer seems far too low. Remember that word, low. And then the Hungarian government investigated and basically said what they're offering can't be provided for that amount of funding. So 250 million forints was considered too low of an offer for what they were going to produce. So their offer, which they have originally won, was rescinded and they kicked them out, and eventually the deal went to this Leaseplan company. And the Leaseplan company won this contract for 36 months for 234 million forints, so an even lower fee. So I don't quite know how that works out. I'm sure there's a reason for this. I'm sure in large part, though, the reason that the offer was rescinded is because the company is attached to Lőrinc Mészáros, the biggest winner from the last 16 years of association with the Fidesz government. So my feeling is that actually the offer was rejected only because of the attachment to Mészáros Lőrinc, because in the end their offer was too low, but then they got an even lower offer. Who knows? Is it a shame that it's gone to a subsidiary of a foreign company? In some sense, yes, because will all that money stay here? No, of course it won't. But in some sense, I sort of understand it because they want to cut all ties with anyone who's a so-called oligarch in Hungary, and Mészáros Lőrinc is the biggest oligarch of all. And then there was also a launch this week of a new website called Közhang. This is a new interactive online platform, and it was announced by Hungarian MP Mark Radnai. He is the very smooth-faced person who often appears with Peter Magyar. He's the vice president of the Tisa party. It is designed, this website, as Hungary's first community-based social consultation tool, allowing people to engage with government-related topics, share opinions and proposals, learn about issues, see other views and track what happens to their input. It was presented a few days ago and launched with a small little smooth video with Mark Radnai walking behind the parliament and shouting things. Közhang comes from an old program that used to be on ATV, which is a TV station here, that actually had a Peter Magyar on it when he was young. While Fidesz used to have these national consultations where they would mail pieces of paper out to people and ask for opinions on topics and get them sent back, this is Tisa's answer to that. Of course, because it's online, you can imagine that the key audience of this are not retired people and pensioners, as was the case with Fidesz, but it is more for the middle class and for young people. When you sign up to register with your real name and where you're from, what sort of worries me about this is that anonymity is allowed on this website. And that means that, of course, this system can be abused, because you can log in from anywhere in the world through a VPN. You can add your opinion and you can influence the government, if we are to believe that you will be able to influence the government with this website. My feeling, the cynic in me says, that Kurshung is not going to be a way for people to connect with the government, but rather a way for the government to connect with the people. It's not the same. And to influence the people into telling them what is good and what is bad, because there is a risk of bombardment from abroad the way it's set up. Now, it has been presented as a step towards a more continuous, transparent citizen input into governance, but will it be that way? I'm not entirely sure. That's all for now. If you like my stuff, give me a like, give me a share. Thanks.